to this episode of the All About Us podcast. I'm your host, Carl Allen, and today our topic is going to be Teen Anxiety No More, a conversation with Jovanna Vidal. How are you doing today, Jovanna?
So amazing, Carl. Thank you so much, first and foremost, for your service, and thank you for having me today. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Now, Jovanna, she's an actress, author, host, voiceover artist, and speaker. You may recognize her from the wildly popular Dhar Mann videos. Now, I'm going to have to check these Dhar Mann videos out.
Yes, you must.
Okay, Jovanna's mission to support and empower teens has touched millions. And today we're diving into the inspiring journey in her best-selling book, Teen Anxiety No More. Jovanna, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I am so amazing. Like, I'm feeling so good for this Monday morning. I'm like, bring it on. Let's bring the weekend this way. I love it.
Well, we have to generate this energy and excitement for our guests, and I'm very happy to have you on. We've tried to click a couple times to get this, and the scheduling was a little bit off. I want to talk about your career and how it spans various different aspects, hosting, now writing. Can you tell us how your journey led you to write Teen Anxiety No More?
Oh, thank you so much. It's always nice when we get to go back into why we're doing the things we're doing, right? And so for me, I remember when I was in college, I used to be a big sister at these cottages that help kids who were struggling, right? Who
What
had
college
seen a
was
lot in
that?
their young life. I went to Pace University in Pleasantville,
Okay.
New York.
Okay.
Yes.
I've heard of Pace.
So, yeah, and it had a great business school. That's what I went to school for. I majored in international marketing and advertising. And out of college, I did pursue my marketing career per my mom. She wanted me to be a businesswoman. She was like, you are not becoming an actor. And so, of course, I had to oblige and do as my mom said. And I did for many years. And then I realized that I wasn't happy. And so I left my very cushy corporate job and I embarked back to Miami. And I started dancing and acting in Miami. And then I jumped to the big leagues to LA thinking I was ready. Hindsight, not so ready. But hey, I jumped, right? And the net appeared. And so I struggled as an actor here in LA for many years. And about, I want to say 6 years now, 5, 6 years, I got the audition that changed the trajectory of not just my acting career, but my impact, right? So you mentioned Dhar Mann. Yes, you must watch Dhar Mann. Especially if you have your son, he may already be keen on it. But Dhar Mann Studios has changed our lives. All of us actors who started with him. Essentially, they're like little motivational lessons that the teams really took on, especially during the pandemic when everyone was home. And so the channel catapulted quickly, and we all just benefited tremendously because we were able to be a part of it from the onset. So that being said, I started my own YouTube channel called Your Journey because we have so many teens watching the show. That was who was joining me on my channel. And they kept asking questions like, how did you overcome bullying? How did you deal with peer pressure? Like all those questions we had as teens. And I was like, y'all, you're asking way too many of the same questions. I am going to write a book for you because I wish I had this book when I was your age. So it's called Teen Anxiety No More. So that is how I've kind of formed what it is I'm doing right now. And I found it more light for teens because I think when they have light and nurturing and support, that they can feel so much better and thrive. And that's what I'm seeing with my younglings, as I call them, on my channel. They are thriving and I'm loving it. So tried to encapsulate that quickly, but it's been a journey.
Well, I want to digress a little bit because you're from the tri-state area, and bouncing between New York and New Jersey. I want to know, as you were going through junior high school and high school, and some of the problems and issues of being in a big metropolitan area like that. Do you feel like that really prepared you to help guide the youth in some ways? And give us a background of maybe some of the high schools and junior high schools you attended and what that experience was like.
What a great question. Wow, Carl, I love it. So yes, New York, New Jersey is where I say I'm from. I've lived in many different cities and actually countries now.
Hmm.
So they each contributed to who I am.
Hmm.
I say I'm a Jersey girl at heart because that's where I did like my junior high and my high school, right? And then
Okay.
I moved back to New York. So there's a lot
Okay.
of back and forth in the tri-state area. And how that impacted me was that I had New York City in my backyard. Like we could literally be there in 5, 7 minutes, right?
Right.
However, my town was 1 square mile. We didn't have a movie theater. We didn't have no McDonald's. We
Wow.
didn't have nothing. It was a beautiful little square mile town where everyone knew each other and white picket fences, and it was
Right.
adorable. And we were the only Latino family in this very um, white and Asian prominent town. So that was interesting. Like when I come in
Right.
here and they're like, "You're not blonde and blue eyes. Where are you from?" I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"Dominican Republic," and they're like, "Where? Where's that? What do you do? Who are you?" And I just remember being like, "Oh my gosh, like where is Dominican Republic?" Like I knew where it was. I grew
Right.
up going there, but to
Right.
tell everyone where the Caribbean was at that time, when
Right.
again
They had
the
no idea.
accessibility to the Caribbean wasn't what it is now. It was just
Exactly.
interesting. It was interesting because that contributed to my feeling different, alone. In a time in your teens where you just want to blend and be like everybody else. I was not. And so that what I remember affecting me so much was when I was bullied, right?
Okay.
Not only for not speaking English well, for being heavier and all
Hmm.
the different reasons they pick on me like they do every child essentially, right?
Okay.
And so it was difficult. Junior high was especially difficult. I was bullied a lot. And in hindsight, I'm grateful for it because it really shaped who I am today. And it was difficult at the time, but I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for that experience. So, silver lining, I'm able to kind of go back and reach back to the kids who are being bullied now.
Right. For me, I had similar experiences because I was small. I'm still small actually, 5'11" and 160 pounds at the most. But I started kindergarten when I was 5 years old. Most of the kids in kindergarten were 6 and 7 years old. So here
Ooh,
I am, the smallest. And then on top of it, I had a speech impediment. I used to stutter. I mean, I stuttered bad.
oh,
For
wow.
me to say, "How are you doing?" I go, "Ha ha ha ha. How are you doing?" And so I had to take speech therapy courses. Like the first 3 4 years in school, and as time went on, I outgrew that. But it was a big thing of being bullied. People talking about you, people making fun. You're the smallest. You can't talk. What's wrong with you? And so various different, children, you go through your own personal things, but
Hmm.
you can get over it. That's the message I want to give to you today. You can outgrow that, and you can use that experience to help you shine and develop into the person that you're going to be someday.
Look at you hosting now with that wonderful radio voice. Like, who would have
Oh
thunk
my
it,
goodness.
right?
Well, I didn't
Who
think I
would
have
have thunk it?
wonderful radio voice, but yes, yes, the stuttering is gone. I'm still a little hesitant at times, but yes, your book addresses critical challenges like fear, bullying, anxiety, What inspired you to focus on teens especially?
Again, I just know there's a different way now, right? Had I known then what I know now, I would have had a very different experience. And I think that experience would have perhaps um, helped me sooner as an adult, right? So it took me so long to get over perhaps some of the like fear or anxiety. And it wasn't like the big like decisions in life. Like I could get up and move to Miami. I lived in London. I
Right.
studied in London my senior year in college. So the big things were okay for me. I moved to LA by myself, drove across the country 3 times. Like I could do the big things. But it was the
Okay.
little things that I had like anxiety around, right? Like,
Okay.
oh my God, you know, they're gonna make fun of me, or how, what if I do this and they see me differently? Like all these little
Right.
things that like wanna like stop you and derail your effort. Those
Correct.
were the things that I used to struggle with. And I was like, wait a minute, if I was quicker to learn these things in my teens and then like it would form perhaps better habits in my 20s, then
Hmm.
I could be further along perhaps. And that is what I bring to my younglings on my channel. It's like life lessons that I wish I knew then. And it's not so that they could be like me, but it's to know that they're not alone, right? That
Okay.
that other people undergo these things, that we all have similar issues and questions, concerns, insecurities, and it's not just them. Like I feel like when you think it's only you, it like exacerbates the situation, and then you kind of wallow in it. But when you
Okay.
realize that we're all interconnected and we all are on this journey together, we coexist, then I
Right.
think it eases that a little bit for the younger mind, and they can like maybe expand a little bit more, take up a little more space, and know that they are worth it and needed in this world.
Well, Giovanni, it seems as if you've traveled to a few different places. You've experienced a lot of different things. What was the most critical period in your life? I mean, where did you struggle the most at? At what point were you almost ready to give up? And what turned everything around? Can you explain that experience to us?
Um, yes. However, there's different answers for all those questions.
Right.
So the most critical for me, as far as struggling, was probably my teens, and then again later as an actor here in LA. But the one where I had the most growth and the most like sense of like worldliness was when
Mm-hmm.
I backpacked through Europe and studied in London. So that
Okay.
formed me into knowing that I could do more, and I didn't have
Hmm.
to stay in this small little town that's all I knew. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to be out in the world. So to answer your question, the most critical was depends on the definition of critical.
Well, let me help you here. Let me help you here.
So,
Talk about your period in Los Angeles when you were a struggling actor, because I think that's important because sometimes things don't come easy. And I tell people all the time, you know what? I'd rather be lucky than to be great. And people said, are you serious? I said, I'd rather be lucky than great. I said, luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And so you have to place yourself in a space at a period point in time where you're preparing yourself and hope something special happens. And so I want you to talk about that experience that you personally experienced during your time as a struggling actor in Los Angeles.
he said was just so beautifully said. Yes, yes, yes. Um, I moved out here in '09. In hindsight, I didn't realize what was happening in the world, but it was a bad time in the industry, in the world, in the country, as far as the recession and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I came in here, it's like innocently, naively, and I just got hit real hard because in my mind I'm Latina, I'm from New York, I'm Dominican, Caribbean, like I'm all these things, and then I get here and they're like, "You're not Latina enough," and I'm like, "What?" And what they meant was I'm not Mexican American because that
Mexican.
is the
Yeah.
biggest population in this country. So
Right.
when you think of advertising, they gear it towards the biggest demographic, which is the Mexican American demographic in the U.S. So when I would go in for auditions, um, I remember casting directors and like session directors or camera guys laughing at my Spanish or at me because I wasn't the stereotypical Mexican American. And they're like, "Where are you from? Where's your accent from?" Even though I'm fluent in Spanish, it was very foreign to them.
Yeah.
So here I am in another big city
You
where I
didn't have
come
that
here.
Cholo lowrider accent. I went to UCLA. I got my bachelor's and master's degree from UCLA. So,
You know LA really well. You
yes, yes, yes.
So I went through a period where I had to try to fit into their mold, right? So my hair
Correct.
is naturally this like, reddish, blonde, like all these lighter colors. I was darkening it. I was making it dark so I would look more Mexican. And I was doing this and this. But when I opened my mouth, I'm not Mexican, right? So
Mexican.
there's a big disconnect. So for many years, I struggled with how the industry saw me, how I saw myself, and how I knew I could be seen. And so there
Okay.
was a lot of years where I was like trying to like force fit, like, kind of like I want to change the industry, and it's like little old me trying to change the whole industry, entertainment industry that's been
Can't do
around for
it.
decades. Like, you know it, you know it.
Can't
When
do
you
it.
come in here with that like resilience and that like I want to prove to them that there's another culture other than Mexico in Latin America when there's like
Mhm.
20 different countries, it was an
Exactly.
uphill battle, and I struggled, and that frustrated me. And you could sense the frustration when I walked into an audition, which didn't serve me, obviously.
Right.
So I went through this period where I was just in my own way, um, and it just made me depressed.
Okay.
So I went through a stretch of time where I was literally just on the couch, frustrated because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to go back home because I knew I wasn't done. Like I knew there was more to do, and I felt it in my heart. And that is when that Dhar Mann audition.
Hmm.
Yes.
Well, how did you survive this period? From your arrival in Los Angeles to Dhar Mann, did you get like small little roles, or were you working like in? A lot of people I know in California, when they're trying to get into the industry, they work in restaurants, or they do various other different things. So how did you piece together your life until Dhar Mann hit?
All of the above. So I worked at restaurants. I was a travel agent, a corporate travel agent from home, which was like the best job because I could still
Mm-hmm.
make my auditions and I didn't have to like get my shit covered. Um, I did MLM. I did obviously little gigs. So I still book
Okay.
things, but in the general market, not in the
Okay.
Hispanic market. So I
Right.
did have work here and there. It was just
Okay.
the Hispanic market that was I was struggling in. And
Okay.
so it's not like I didn't work, but as an actor, you never work enough.
Right.
You want to work every day, but that's
And you
not
and you
really
and you
realistic.
also have a niche. You also have a niche that you want to fit into, and a lot of times, the industry as a whole, whether it's movies, music, or whatever, they have these defined roles, and when you don't exactly fit into that design role, it's more difficult for you. I experienced that when I was in the music industry in Los Angeles also, and everybody was telling me, the music, there wasn't a genre for, they used to call my music techno funk. That's what they used to call it. And there wasn't a genre for that. And so, you can't, the industry pigeonholes you. If you don't fit into that pigeonhole, you're going to have a difficult time.
You're absolutely right on so many levels. And like you said, whether it's music or on camera, or it's just what is necessary for immediate recognition. Something
Right.
needs to fit into a cubby so that the audience, viewer, listener can immediately identify with what it is you're putting out. And when there's a disconnect, mm, uphill battle.
Exactly. So now you pieced your life together, and then how did you get the introduction to Dhar Mann? How did that door open?
I auditioned. So, as you probably know, there are several websites that us actors pay for on a monthly basis
Okay.
to get audition notices. At
No,
the
I
time,
didn't
I
know
didn't
that.
have an agent. Yes, yes. So it's great because you have these opportunities that are delivered to your inbox, and as an actor, you spend a lot of your days submitting. So
Okay.
this was pre-pandemic where everything was in person. So
Okay.
we would submit, you'd get an audition notice, do your audition in person. Now
Okay.
you get an audition notice, you often film it at home and send a
Okay.
self-tape.
Mhm.
But there were times where I had agents that were amazing and they were sending me out so frequently. Like I would audition 5 times a week. Like I was very
Okay.
lucky. And
Wow.
I booked a fair amount. And
Okay.
as actors, just getting the audition is a big
Big deal.
celebratory moment. And I would get the callbacks and the avails. So for anybody
Mhm.
listening who doesn't know, callback is when they're like, we like you enough, come back.
Mhm.
We want to see if we can connect you with the rest of the family or a partner, husband, whatever.
Right.
At the time, when they were putting families together.
Mhm.
And then if they like you enough, they might ask for a second callback.
Mhm.
If they like you and they're like, no, we're putting you on a veil, that means those few days that the project is filming, you're going to carve out those days and you cannot book yourself for anything else. You are
Right.
available to us.
Mhm.
Typically, that's among one or two of the top people, and oftentimes the other person will get the booking. So you are on a veil. You really can't audition because what if it conflicts? But then you have to audition
Right.
because if you don't get it, you want to line up your next job. So it's a
Job.
very tricky logistical
Right.
piece. It's nightmares, especially if you had
Right.
a restaurant job where you're like, excuse
Right.
me, boss, can you let me go for audition callback? It's a
Mhm.
lot to ask of any boss, right? So,
But they understand.
some,
They, they, they,
some,
they understand whether they go along with it or not. That's another thing because a lot of people in the industry, that's the job they do. They understand. But
it's just how do you run a business with all actors in your
exactly.
team, and everyone
Exactly.
taking different times. It's nightmarish, and so
It is.
um yeah, and so yeah, that is just a little smidgen of what actors encounter on a day-to-day basis. Like we spend a good chunk of our day submitting for potential jobs, and when you have
Now,
an agent, you
I'm
can
going
do
to
both.
break you here before we. I want you to continue, but you mentioned these sites that aspiring actors can do their all. I guess book auditions. What can you give the audience the name of some of these websites?
Absolutely, because there are some that are legitimate and some that are not. So I
Okay.
will absolutely tell you the top 3 or 4 that typically everyone knows to be legitimate and
Okay.
true to use. That would be Casting Network, and that is national, maybe even international now, where you pick your region. So that one's a great one for commercials mostly,
Mhm.
and a lot of now like influencer type of
Right.
auditions come through, like user
Right.
generated content. It's called
Mhm.
UGC. There's Active Access, which is more for like theater film, but
Mhm.
they're small roles, oftentimes background. So Active Access is legitimate and a great site. I always had a lot of great luck on Backstage.com. There used to
Okay.
be a print version of
Mm-hmm.
Backstage, and then obviously it went online. That has smaller projects, oftentimes school
Mm-hmm.
projects, which is great for a new actor, right?
Okay.
And then there's others. There's Casting Frontier, which is
Mm-hmm.
also a good one for commercials. And then there's others down from there. But those
Okay.
are like my top preferred four that I lean on the most and I feel
Okay.
the most comfortable recommending.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Now
Yeah.
continue with the story, the Dhar Mann story. So, which one of those sites actually got you the audition?
Ah, I think it was Casting Network, but sometimes I go back and forth whether it was Casting Network or Actors Access because it was a long
Okay.
time ago. But it was one of those two.
Okay.
And when I submitted to the audition,
Mm-hmm.
the producer casting agent reached out to me, said, "Can you do a self tape?" This was pre-pandemic, but some companies or production companies aren't big enough or don't want to spend the expense on doing a
Mm-hmm.
in-person casting. So
Mm-hmm.
even pre-pandemic, it was a small sliver, but you still did self tape. I
Right.
submitted my audition, and I actually have it on my channel, on my YouTube
Okay.
channel. Um, and that one didn't get me the job.
Oh,
So I had to do another audition, which is very common. If they
okay.
like you enough, they just want to see you for different roles. And
Mm-hmm.
so I auditioned twice for Dhar Mann. I did my first show video, and then in the last 5 years, I've done over 70 now. So it's been a nice recurring bread and butter, as we call it.
Wow.
Thankfully, I don't have to be in a restaurant
Right.
because Dhar Mann really replaced that,
Right.
that sliver of an income for us actors.
Right. So now, what is the next stage for you in your progression? Where would you like to go? Uh, from Dhar Mann. What are you looking forward to? What do you believe's down the
What a fantastic question, Carl, especially this time of year, right? As we
road? Right.
begin to formulate what our next year is going to look like, right? This
Correct.
is a time of reflection. It's a time of like introspection. And so that's what I've been looking at. Like for me, I love to act. I love to be in front of the camera. I love creating characters. I love being on a set. Like more of that, please, always, right? Like I want
Okay.
to be the Latina Betty White. Like I want to be doing this till my 90s.
Okay.
Like please, please, please. So that
Okay.
be it, TV, film, I just love
Uh-huh.
it. I'm not a
Okay.
theater person, like stage actor, but
Right.
I love going to the theater. But my voice
Mm-hmm.
isn't that far reaching. That is
Right.
on the acting front.
Mm-hmm.
I would also see that my progression with teen anxiety no more.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing to speak in front of the youth, going to schools, um, and speaking at big youth events. Like that is a big part of what
Mm-hmm.
I love to do. Is
Mm-hmm.
that when oftentimes it's a parent will come up to me because their child is shy and doesn't want to come up to me, and they're like, "Are you in Dhar Mann?
Oh
Can my
wow.
son take a photo with you? Can my?" That lights up our days as all Dhar Mann
Oh
actors
yeah.
because we do it for them. And when we
Right.
get those moments, there's nothing better. And then they'll stop me, and then they know I have a channel, and they're like, I'm struggling with bullies. The girls are making fun of me. The mean girls are this."
Mm-hmm.
And I just take a moment and I put them down, and I'm like, "Listen, honey," and the parents are watching, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just a beautiful moment. So I just want
Right.
more opportunities to be in front of the youth, and still use my acting platform because that's how I garner, the eyeballs and the ears of the youth,
Right.
right? Like, so to me, it's a very powerful combination, and I really love it.
Now
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. Because I ask this question a lot. Do you see a difference in the fear, the bullying, and the anxiety in teens pre-pandemic and post-pandemic? Did things change? Did it kind of snap and get worse, or is it the same? What is your perspective on that?
Amazing question. I think most certainly the pandemic did a number on all of us.
Correct.
Whether you're a teen or an adult, we all struggled, and maybe even babies who weren't socialized until they were three, right? Coming out of, like, if they were
Right.
born during the pandemic. So
Correct.
those times during lockdown for different parts of the world, obviously, um,
Mhm.
hugely impacted our world and our day to day and how we show up in the world. Because so many of us got comfortable on the couch because you could do everything from it. Then now I'm also finding a lot of like younglings who don't want to leave the house or, are only on, their devices because that's all they knew for so long. So I think it really impacted us in so many ways that we might inherently know, but we don't speak about enough. Like,
Right.
cyberbullying, oh my gosh, went to an all-time high. And that is a
Exactly.
chapter in my book. I mean, this is what it looks like. It is
Okay.
a chapter in my book because um, it's such a reality for,
Hmm.
everyone behind the keyboard right now. It's so
Correct.
easy to release this harsh words because you're hiding behind a keyboard and a screen. And these
Correct.
kids are feeling it. And it's just awful that, so many of us adults don't really know what to do with that because we didn't, like if we got made fun
Right.
of, it was in our school yard. It wasn't,
Right.
worldwide. Or so it's a very different time and it's a very delicate situation. And I think post pandemic, I think we just need to um simplify things for our teens and younglings. Like take it back to the basics, right? Like the parents who are like, nope, you're not having a device. You're gonna go outside and ride your bike.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
back to the basics,
Basics.
like
Yeah.
they don't realize the good being out playing
Right.
basketball or or playing whatever outside can do for them. That's what we.
I
That's
tell
just my
people
feeling.
all the time, we have to teach this generation of children how to be children.
Oh, that's a mic drop. Seriously, they are growing up so fast that they don't realize like the things that like you're like, wait, how old are you? Like what? Wildly sometimes disturbing
Yeah, but
because
that's
this
what
is
we have to
stuff.
do.
So true. I agree with
That's
you
what we
a
have to
million percent.
do. You have been a part of more than 70 of these Dhar Mann videos, and now I'm kind of remiss because I haven't seen any of them, and I'm going to have to catch up. How has that experience shaped your perspective on connecting with younger audience?
Oh, interesting. I wasn't expecting that question. I love it though. Um, how has it shifted my perspective on being with this? You know, so often I play a mom,
Hmm.
and I've played probably 60 of those roles were probably moms.
Now, are
And
you a
it's so,
mom in real life?
I am not. You miss me, right? So I'm not a parent. However, I connect with the teens, right? They
Okay.
really, that time in your teens where you like separate from your parents and you don't want to be seen with them because you're
Hmm.
embarrassed and you're like, no, I don't
Right.
want to, hang out with you.
Hmm.
That's when I connect with them, right?
Okay.
Because at a certain point, we kind of distance ourselves as, young adults. And then we come back to the family, I think, in our mid 20s. But that's just a time
Hmm.
where it's so difficult, oftentimes, for parents um, to create that, like, trust bond, right? Um, that's when I think the teens are like, wait, they call me their YouTube mom, their Insta mom, because that's essentially what I've become
Right.
from afar. And it's really interesting because I always thought I'd be a big sister, but they're calling me mom. And I remember the first time I was like, oh, not being a parent especially. So in my book, I ask for the parents' permission to
Mm-hmm.
speak to their children. A non-parent, right? Because I really value that relationship, and it's not like the sort of thing where I ever want to like bypass or step on toes. That is so not it. I want to supplement, right, and be in the ears of the teen when their parents perhaps aren't there, right? They might remember Insta mommy, as they call me,
Mm-hmm.
saying XYZ. And when they find themselves in a difficult situation, being pressured to do something they don't want to do, then maybe they might remember my voice in a moment when they want to rebel against their parents. And that to me is like such a beautiful result of it all that I
It
hear
is.
a lot from parents and the teens. And it's like, wow, right? It takes a village. It takes
To
a
raise a
village.
child, it does.
It takes a village. And if I could be part of your village, like please use me.
Okay.
To be there as well.
Now, you stated
If
so
I
you
answered your
play.
question.
Yeah, you did. You play a lot of mom. Yeah, you did. You play a lot of Dhar Mann mom roles. So, is it the
Hmm.
same mom? Is it the same role all the time, or is it different, disconnected skits? So you don't go by the same name every episode.
No, that's the question I thought you were
Then
gonna ask prior when you threw me off a little bit,
I
but I loved
flipped
it.
it around a little bit.
I love it. Love it. I love it. No, quite often, perhaps I've been like the same mom, in like a series with the same
Hmm.
child maybe two, three times, but
Hmm.
still, oftentimes we have different character names. So
Okay.
all the kids know all my character names, and I'm like, which script was that? I'm like, and then they have to describe which
Wait,
mom I was.
you have to go back
You
into
know,
your
and that's
memory bank.
I'm sorry, but the
Amazing.
memory banks aren't as reliable sometimes.
Okay.
And so different moms, different roles, and so it's been essentially over 70 different roles, and that is what has been so amazing as an actor on Dhar Mann. Like amazing.
So, what inspired you to actually? Well, you stated you started seeing or getting asked the same questions over and over and over again. So that's why you started writing your book. What year did you write your book, and what year did you complete writing it?
Okay, Carl, you're not gonna believe me, but I'm gonna say it regardless. Started writing my book, officially sat down after a book writing conference I took in 22. I
Mm-hmm.
went in like May, June to
Mm-hmm.
this conference in 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and I published on August 22nd, 2022.
You're like me. You're like me. Very much so. You're very much so. See, I'm a I hate to say it, I'm a procrastinator. I wait till the very last minute to do everything, but see, that's when my superpowers engaged, and I can just kind of like power through everything.
Yeah.
That's how, unfortunately, I operate. I do everything at
Exactly,
the
right?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how I operate. I wait to the very last minute and then engage all my superpowers and plow through it. And it always turns out great. But no, me and you are alike in that sense. So you published this book August of 2022, and how was it initially received? And how did you present or promote the book?
Great question. So I say that because in 3 or 4 months I was able to write, edit, and publish my book.
Amazing.
It became a #1 bestseller, and I say that because it was a download. It wasn't even me almost. It was given to me, and I just had to sit by the keyboard and just do what I was being told to do. And at that time, I actually stopped auditioning. I was like, I cannot be taken out of writing this book sometimes for a day because that's how long doing a self-paced takes. Especially as a female, hair, makeup, lighting, filming, learning the lines, um, editing it. It can be a full day process to deliver one self-tape, which is quite frustrating because it used to be like a 2-3 minute audition. Hi, my name is Jovanna Vidal. How are you doing? I deliver my audition. Thank you. Next. Like literally, I would spend 2 hours going to and from the audition, way more than the 2 minutes obviously in the room. So it became a big arduous process to do your own self-tape. I chose to not audition because I was still acting. So I still got my acting bug taken care of with Dhar Mann. So I had the best of both worlds, and I was able to finish the book very quickly. I promoted it on my social media. I promoted it and still do. I really do heavily promote my book because I think it's an ongoing thing. I sent emails, book signings. I travel always with my book, and I get copies whenever I see someone that I think can benefit from it. So,
and it's on Amazon, correct?
It's on Amazon, yes. So let me give you another visual. It's yellow and orange.
We'll have a link to Amazon and the Dhar Mann Show. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm proud of it. I really am. I'm proud when I hear back the feedback that it has helped someone, and that is what we're here in this world to do, right? To lend a hand and help the next person.
But it's amazing, though, this book, I'm amazed by it because it wasn't just a #1 seller. It was a #1 seller in 5 categories. And to me, I didn't even know they were categories of #1 bestsellers. So I mean, how did that make you feel? How did that impact you? Knowing that, wow, I just didn't write something that impacted just like one group of people. It was a whole expanse of different people. You're talking about the #1 seller in 5 different categories. To me, that's quite amazing.
Thank you, Carl. I'm getting chills because it just reminds us when we put our blood, sweat, tears, energy, effort into something and we believe in it, that when you get those sorts of results, it reminds you that you're on the right course, you're on the right path. And that is what that did for me. It just reminded me that this is necessary. This is what I'm called to do, and how I just need to answer the call. I just need to answer the call. So that's why I do everything I do.
Okay. What are these 5 categories you were #1 bestseller in? Come on, we got to hype this up. What were those 5 categories?
It was in teen, nonfiction. It was in bullying. It was in new releases. And the other two, I think, escaped me. I'll have to do my best to think about it.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. That's good. Now, let's talk about this little thing you created called Your Journey. Can you explain to the audience what your journey is?
Oh, so near and dear to my heart. So Your Journey is my YouTube channel. And again, I created it right before 2020, so before the book. And it was an opportunity for me to have this point to the Dhar Mann, right? They kept wanting to reach out to me via, all the socials, and I always wanted to do YouTube. I actually recorded my 3 cross-country trips because I wanted to make it a series on YouTube. But in 2010, the technology was not in my favor. It's not like now where you can Hi, Ben.
Hi, how are you? I I guess I should come back later.
Ben, yes, I sent you a message.
Oh,
I needed to push ours an hour. I'm sorry.
yeah. Okay, we'll talk later. Thanks. Okay.
Okay, well, in 1 hour.
Okay.
Okay?
Bye now.
Alrighty. Okay.
Hi, Ben. Have a great day. Yeah, today. Huh?
yeah, it gets like that at times.
Especially when you're preparing for that trip, it's like you got to get everything done so you can just have time of your brain at ease.
Right. Okay, well, continue with your journey, okay?
Oh, I can?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm okay.
Okay.
Then he'll be okay. Okay, let him know I wish him well on his talk with you.
Okay.
Your journey. So yes, it started out being called the scenic route because
Right.
everything I've done has been taking a right when I'm supposed to make a left because that's what my inner GPS said to do, and then like I stumble upon the most beautiful, majestic,
Right.
backdrop, and I'm like, this is why I made a right and didn't listen to the GPS. So it was initially called the scenic route with Jovanna Vidal. That got passed in 23. So YouTube was like, you need to change your name. So I changed it to Your Journey because it's all about the team's journey, your journey, right? It's what you do now that will serve you later. And it's become one of my favorite things every Friday, as we call it. We get together at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in case you all want to join us. And oftentimes, if I'm not filming or traveling, I go live. And during these lives, I offer up a quote of the day, a lesson of the week, and we just engage. They ask me questions, and it's become the Fry Fam community. Like, we are this little family where everybody knows each other, everyone's kind. You're always welcome. If there's a new person in the chat, I encourage them to say they're new, and everybody in the Fry Fam, it's like welcome, and because I always want to create an environment where everyone feels seen, heard, and they're not like, oh, I can't contribute anything in the chat because everyone knows each other and I don't know anybody and I'm shy and no, you're gonna say hello and we're gonna welcome you so that you keep coming back as they often do, and I love to see because it's about inclusion. It's about being better together and knowing that you're not alone. So that is what your journey has become for me and so many others.
Okay. You said this book is like a love letter to your young audience. What message are you hoping they hear from your book?
Carl, your questions, my goodness, I love them all. Oh, it is. It's a love letter because it's I want them to feel the love from other sources and perhaps sometimes they feel they don't feel, right? And it's my way of letting them know that, someone is here for you. Someone's gonna cheerlead you. Someone's gonna brighten up your day. We might cry together. We might get frustrated together. But at the end of the day, you know, you will feel supported, nurtured, seen, and loved. And it's my love letter so that you feel that from somebody. When sometimes, I remember as a teen and a young adult, and sometimes as a real adult, you just feel alone in the world, right?
Right.
Whether or not you have a partner, whether or not you have a family member that's near you, sometimes you just don't see eye to eye. And sometimes you feel alone, not understood. And that is where I want to step in because um, everyone's doing their best, and parents are doing everything they can. And oftentimes, younger, when we're in that stage, we don't see that until we are an adult and we're like, oh, mommy, you did so much. Oh, my goodness. And here I was being a brat. And that is wow, wow, wow. So And sometimes the kids don't have someone who supports them in the household, and I've encountered that a lot, where a lot of younglings will tell me, "You're the first person to ever tell me that you're proud of me, that someone's proud of me."
A
And I'm
lot
like,
of kids are
wow.
raising themselves almost. It's bad. It's bad. Parents are struggling and going through so many problems. They've forgotten the concept of family and what family is supposed to be about, and the basis of the support system. So that's something we definitely need to get back to. For teens who might be feeling overwhelmed, what's the first step they can take to start overcoming those challenges?
Wow. I would say the first step, I would say journal it out. Put it on paper. Put it outside of you.
I agree.
Don't hold it in and try to like white knuckle through it and bottle it up and think like, you know, there's nobody out there. Sometimes you may not feel like you have anybody, but you have yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to see it in black and white to realize like this isn't as big as you're making it out to be in your,
Mm-hmm.
you know, brain filled space. It sometimes when you just write it out, you realize like, okay, it's figure outable. I don't know right now what I'm gonna do, but the answer is gonna come to me. And then you release a lot, I believe, through
Right.
journaling and writing.
Okay.
And I think that's a great first step. And then establishing a framework for
Mm-hmm.
where you feel you can trust. So sometimes we don't have trust in ourselves yet,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe there is someone, you know, there's a teacher that you like and connect with and you can trust. Like formulating that little circle that is past, you know, the devices and it's actually in person, right? Like finding that person that you really can turn to. It could be a cousin, it could be a sibling, just having somebody that you can hug and hold and turn to.
And communicate with. Many parents and
Communicate, yeah.
yes, communication is big. Communication is
Communication is
big.
huge.
Yeah, and we don't do enough effective communication. Not just communication,
True that.
yelling at each other. Effective communication. Many parents and educators listen to this podcast, your podcast. What advice would you, well, my podcast too. We're talking about my podcast. Many parents and educators. What advice would you give them about supporting teens through fear and anxiety? So how can the people who are listening to my podcast and your show, how can they support these children going through fear and anxiety?
I think it's so key to have a baseline. I think it's so important to have that first conversation and be like, Jimmy, I know school's difficult right now, but I'm going to work with you to work through it. Whatever that means, it's difficult, right? So whether it's the bullying, because so many times I feel like kids don't turn to their parents
Mm-hmm.
because they don't believe that the parents are going to take their side, right?
Right.
I remember that was my case. Like I was afraid to tell my mom about being bullied. Like my mom found
Mm-hmm.
out reading in the book. Like, what do you mean this kid was bullying you? I was afraid because where I grew up as a very strict Latina in this very conservative household, it was if if you cry, I'm gonna spank you to give you a good reason to cry. Like all these
Exactly.
things that we were.
There was all these rules we had. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't want to get spanked because I'm getting in trouble in
Trouble
school with
is
the
school.
kids because I'm not defending myself. Like
I already have enough trouble. I don't need to add any more to it.
that was my experience. And I speak about my experience because that was exactly what not to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to tell somebody that you trust. And the only way you're going to get that trust is for the parents to meet them in their place. You know, Jimmy, I understand you're going through this. I am with you through this. And, you know, because I think so often kids, you know, think there's a separation with the parents when in actuality the parents want the best for the child, but like
Right.
they don't understand that, conceptually. So it's like having that baseline. And I'm going to say that I have heard often that my book creates that baseline.
That's
When the
good.
parent and the teen or child, I've had a parent child duel as young as like 8 years old. I thought it was a little young, but this was her decision to have this conversation with her daughter at the age of 8. And I was like, oh my God. But she, as a parent, made that decision and she cut out the parts that were not age appropriate.
Okay.
And when we did an interview, and because I was really shocked at how young this child was,
Okay.
but the little girl just like is thriving as a result because it
That's
created this like understanding between the two of them, and they had this common language. So they were able to communicate in a way that perhaps later on it gets ahead of itself or away from you. So I do say my book, and if that's not possible, then just that support and just like letting, I don't know, it's tricky because it's hard to be like their friend when you still need to discipline and be the parent. So
But
I'm not neglecting.
you have to be able to let go, though, and you have to be genuine. And I think that's what we don't have. You even have to be genuine with your children. Sometimes, even discussing with my children, they say, well, you're telling me not to do this, but I've seen you do this. I said, I don't want you to be like me. I'm raising you to be better than me.
Mm, mm, I love that. I love that. And I
So,
think to your point, go ahead.
we you have to be genuine. No, I'm not always the best, but I'm trying to raise you to be the best. and so they can accept that. They can understand that because you're being genuine. No, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but no, you can't do this. I don't want you making the same mistake as I made. And so it's in our communication we need to be genuine, and I think that's the missing link, and I think that's what your books allow and help parents to be with their teenagers. Yeah, let's go flip mode.
I'm having this conversation. My brain, can you see it? Like, it's just going,
Yeah.
I'm trying to like, I love this conversation. So thank you. Oh,
um, let's go flip mode now. Now you get to ask me 3 questions. I've been asking all the questions. Now you get to ask me 3 questions.
okay. Okay. It's okay. Um, has being a parent impacted how you construct your day to day now?
Oh, how I construct my day to day now is I really don't have much of a plan for anything. I can't, I mean, you have a plan, but I can't have anything planned that's concrete. And the reason why I had to say that is my youngest son had ADHD, and I mean, he had bad ADHD. And I mean, he had ADHD. I had custody of him, and his mother was fighting me in court to get him on medic. She didn't want him on medication, and I had to go through these court battles. I get called to the school sometimes like 2, 3 times during the week. If I was at work or if I was in a business meeting or whatever else, Alex would be on top of the wall units in the school, throwing erasers at the teachers and at the students, or he'd be there biting the desk. Or, sometimes he would say, I'm hearing voices, and then I have to go and pick him up from school and then take him down to down to the psychiatric ward at the hospital, and they'd have to test him. Sometimes he'd have to stay overnight. So I had this built-in thing that I had to have a life, but I was a single parent, and I had a son, and my son came first. And so I programmed myself never to get angry at my son because he didn't cause this problem. He was born that way. He was born that way. And so I just had to learn how to be flexible and tractable and just roll with everything and even try to make the best out of bad situations. And so that's how that and that's what I do now. You seen even with Ben popping up, that was unexpected. But you know it's a hey, things happen and it doesn't stop nothing. You just roll with it. and you keep going. So that's what I learned from raising my children, not being so set and so firm. And being able to make the adjustments and being able to roll with any unexpected things and not blame them for it.
I love that. And may I ask, what are their ages?
Oh my goodness, I have five. Ah, wow. Yeah. Desiree is probably let's see. Desiree is probably 41. Marcus is probably 39. Tiffany is 30. Dante is 22. No, 21. He'll be 21. He's 20 now. He'll be 21. And Alex is 18.
Wow. Okay. Well, I was not expecting that.
Alex is still the only one at home. I'll be 61 in a month. So a lot of people are shocked.
You were going to say like 12, because he's in school, and I'm like expecting school age. Okay, so okay, bravo to you.
Okay.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Okay.
Second question.
How do perhaps now your adult kids teach you? Like, what do they teach you, perhaps, or what have you learned from them now that perhaps they're parents? Or
My adult kids kind of like I don't want to say stay away from me. They I how can I say it? I continue to parent, and so they don't like things being pointed out to them. So they kind of they kind of try to avoid me. I have this do things right the first time attitude. I don't like mistakes. I don't like mistakes. I believe that mistakes, slow you down and hinder your growth, and they give you excuses. So I don't like to hear excuses. So my children they kind of avoid me in that sense. They avoid me in that sense. So I mean, we do interact, but it's kind of there's a little space there because I'll begin pointing out things and directing some traffic still, even though they're adults. So.
in your defense, it's not just you. More my mother. My father's girly. My mother does the same thing, and I think as children, it's so hard to hear that they're right, and you're just like, oh, why is it always right? Why? And that's hard hitting when you have to like come to that realization, and sometimes it's a little too late, and you're like, why would I just listen to them? But
right,
that's
and
kind
a
of our
lot of
journey,
times
right?
it's in that situation where you told them this was going to be a mistake. Don't do this. You're making a big mistake. You're making a big mistake, and now they done made that big mistake. and now they don't want to talk to you because they don't want to hear "I told you so" and don't want to have to go through all they have to go through in order for you to help and assist them and give them the correct information for them to get out. That's just part of being a parent. Third question.
Okay.
If you finish
Oh my gosh, I have two questions for my third question. I'm trying to decide which one. Do I give you a
ask both.
talking about your kids or do because now I understand and again thank you for your service how you serving perhaps plays out into right it informs probably so much of what you do and how you are because it was such a you know such a time for you. So I guess my question is that was part of it and then the other one was like you know I don't know something to the vein of like how can we demonstrate to perhaps even our adult children that we're there for them and that if they make a mistake that, it's their mistake and they have to clean it up, but that, there's less of that like space because they're, not as afraid to make a mistake. You know what I mean? So those were the two questions I was going back and forth.
I'm going to try to encapsulate it and see if I can address two. Generations have changed. And when we were children, we couldn't wait to get out the house. When we got 18, we wanted to go, 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 go. We were gone. I was gone at 17. So nowadays, what you have in retrospect is you have children who, and don't get me wrong, the world is much more different and it's harder out there, I believe, now than it was then. But they don't want to leave the home and they want to learn, bridge out, and be themselves, and they want to be at home doing it. Now, once again, my thing is this: I'm loving dad. I mean, I'm family man all the way, and I'm not a difficult father, but because of I'm very, very goal oriented. I'm very, very rule oriented, structured. That's because of my time in the military. If you're going to make a mess, you can't make a mess at home. so okay. So I'm going to guide you. Okay, this is where you need to go, and this is where you need to go to experiment. Okay. Now, if you go out and you make a mistake and say you need to come back home, then there needs to be some dialogue. We need to have some dialogue. We need to put some things in place, and we need to minimize the impact that you've already created. And we need to make sure that the mess you created when you're coming back home doesn't impact the home environment. Now, if you don't want to have that conversation, then you created your bed and you lying. And it's just it's just that simple. I believe what is happening nowadays more so than anything else in many ways. I can't think of the word now that they use, but we're almost letting our kids know, oh, it's okay to make mistakes. That's how everybody know it's not okay to make mistakes. Let me tell you something. The most important period in your life is from the age of 12 to 30. If you screw up those years, you have a long uphill climb in reaching success and becoming the type of person that your best person. To age 12 to 30 is where you really need to put your thing down and get some bricks in place. If you don't, you screw up all those years, that doesn't mean you can't be successful, but you're going to have a very, very difficult uphill climb. And so, what I try to do is, in love, I try to prevent my children from making those critical mistakes during that critical period.
Powerful answer. Thank you for that. I think it's so serving to anyone listening to this because I think it's, like you said, very common now where so many kids are coming back, as adults in home and parents who thought they were retiring or having to get out of retirement. So I think it's a big conversation, and I think it's really cool how you are able to illustrate that from a dad's point of view who has this like discipline, background. And most children don't understand that discipline, right? It takes a very specific path to understand what it's like to have to, wake up at a certain time and make your bed. Like there's just certain rules that, to your point, aren't as prevalent now. So I think we cross the gamut from teens to adult kids, and I love this conversation. It's really cool for me.
So, before we close, what is your next project?
Ooh. Reflection. I am working on that. I just finished filming last month another like miniseries film, and that was a lot of fun. I am still working on getting in front of the youth and speaking at schools. So if any of your listeners have access to a school that they would like for me to go speak at, I am all about it. And
Make
I'm
sure
writing my second book.
information, all your links are in the show notes. And do you have another book you're germinating on?
Yeah. So the sequel to this, so I've called it College Anxiety No More. And about 10 chapters in, this one isn't as quick as the first one. This one takes me a lot longer. But it's really like kind of like, bridging that time between college, not college, because that's a real question now for these generations, right? Where when there was no choice. Like you had to go to school oftentimes in order to, progress forward. Now there's so many options, spoon fed to this generation that it's a bigger question.
The internet has changed all the rules, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like that little bridge, and I really want to.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I think you touched something by accident. I can't hear you. It is, Jovanna, it's fine. We were at. Uh-oh. Hello? Right. Right. Well, what it's saying is, it momentarily stopped recording, and it hit refresh. Okay. Uh, let's just cancel. Yeah. Oh, oh, okay. Because pretty much your everything was pretty much we were at the end of the show here, so I'm so sorry that happened, but we can. I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story and your mission with us today. Well, Your work is truly making a difference in the lives of so many teens, and we're honored to have you join us on the All About Us podcast. I want to invite you back at a later date, right before you're ready to drop this new book. But we're going to make sure we have all of your information on the show promos and on the show notes. So thank you for joining our show. You have a great day. No, no. Everything is fine now. Everything is fine. Your content has been uploaded. So this is the end of this show. We had a few little glitches, audience, but that's fine. You got the bulk of the information, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.